Inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD, isn't just a gut issue, it's a life-altering condition. It's estimated that over 7 million people worldwide suffer from IBD, and that number is growing rapidly. In the US alone, Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis impact nearly 1 in 100 people, according to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation.
But how do we actually get to the right answer? So if someone comes in with, let's say, rheumatoid arthritis, the rheumatologist isn't doing heavy metal testing, isn't looking at the microbiome and doing stool testing, isn't looking at food sensitivities, isn't looking at the chronic infections that could be triggering it, like Lyme or maybe post-COVID. They're not paying attention to those things. So it's like, right. Okay, you just have an autoimmune disease. You have these antibodies, you have these symptoms. This is what you got. I gave you your condition a name. That's what's causing your symptoms. But it's not the cause. It's just a name that we give to people who share a collection of symptoms. And so we have to think differently about this. And that's what functional medicine is. It's a different way of thinking or navigating the landscape of disease to get to the root cause. So we do a lot of different things, and we do a lot of different things that actually helped us to figure out the root cause.
And there is no cure. Your investigator, Katie Weiss, is uncovering a surge in IBD cases among young children in Colorado.
As journalists, it's not often that we're a part of the stories that we tell. But Crohn's is an autoimmune disease that affects me every day and will continue to for the rest of my life. That's why it's important to me to introduce you to a courageous 15-year-old girl from Denver who also has Crohn's. She wants anyone at home who's watching who may be suffering to know that they're not alone and that there is hope on the horizon.
Yeah, this was the beginning of the trip.
It all began on a vacation 6 years ago when Pauline Clayman was only 9.
In my worst, I was going to the bathroom all the time.
And current treatments on the market are extremely expensive.
Often $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year. Insurance covers a lot of it, but there's an increasing portion that's borne by families.
Without insurance, they can be practically inaccessible for an average family.
What kind of treatment gaps or issues currently exist that keep you awake at night?
If there were easier ways to provide medications and to have the pharmaceutical industry really focus on kids, which is not a big market, and provide better therapeutic approaches would be a big win. And funding for the programs to provide the care that's not supported by insurance.
Until then, Hoffenberg says it's critical to detect these problems early so treatment can be more effective. He says to look out for the signs: rapid weight loss, persistent diarrhea, and blood in the stool.
Once I got on medicine, I was able to just return to what I normally like to eat.
Symptoms Pauline proudly tells me she hasn't dealt with in a long time.
Being diagnosed was the first step of my journey, and learning to cope with the daily impact of having an IBD wasn't always easy. Over 3 million people in Europe have an IBD, with a wide range of symptoms from mild to severe, depending on the individual. Many find the symptoms of their IBD can stop them from enjoying life. Traveling long distances may feel daunting, so make sure you add in some rest days, and don't push yourself too hard when you are unwell. When it comes to food, there is no one diet that works for all. You will need to find out which foods you can and can't tolerate. If you're eating out, it's okay to ask for special requirements. Don't feel pressured to socialize when you're not feeling up to it. You know your body's needs and its limits. Not everyone will understand, but it's important not to feel guilty if you have to leave an event early or not go out at all.
IBD isn't new, but the surge we're seeing now is alarming. Back in the mid-20th century, cases were rare and often misdiagnosed. By the 1980s and 1990s, diagnoses started rising significantly, particularly in industrialized nations. Experts point to changes in diet, increased antibiotic use, and environmental factors as potential triggers. A 2017 study published in the Lancet Gastroenterology and Hepatology attributes the rise of IBD to the westernized lifestyle, emphasizing diet and urbanization as key drivers. Can ultra-processed foods interfere with our mental state?
I saw Darius Mozaffarian, who's a researcher at Tufts, he's the guy to put out the study that says, or was part of the study that said, Lucky Charms are healthier than eggs. You saw that last year. That's total BS, right?
Hilarious.
But one thing he did point out was that over the last 20 years or so, we haven't really been eating much more calories than we were. Like from the 1960s to about 2000, we ate more calories, and maybe that explains why everybody got fat. But since that time, we really haven't eaten much more, but we've eaten so much more ultra-processed food. In fact, right now, the U.S. diet is close to 70% ultra-processed, which you think about, it's like crazy, and our kids are getting fat. But one thing that's interesting is because you're talking about the microbiome, right? Our gut flora. When you eat like whole food, it goes farther down your digestive tract, and then our microbiome actually consumes some of that. Up to 22% of our calories can be consumed by our microbiome. But when you're just eating sugar, it goes straight in you. So those calories, your gut microbiome doesn't get any of that. So it's like you're absorbing more calories. So just by changing the quality of the food, you're changing how many calories you absorb. And that is what some people say is part of what leads to this.
So what are ultra-processed foods exactly?
Talk me through UPF. So everyone at home watching this, what is an ultra-processed food?
So you said in your beginning there, your excellent beginning, that there was no settled definition. There is a very, very settled definition of what an ultra-processed food is. It's housed on the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization website. It's been used in hundreds of excellent studies. It's agreed on by the governments of France, Israel, Belgium.
You can blame my producer.
No. This is a common misconception put about by the food industry that there isn't a settled definition. It boils down to, if you're reading an ingredients list, and there's something on there that you don't normally find in a domestic kitchen, a stabilizer, an emulsifier, a flavoring, the product is almost certainly ultra-processed. And ultra-processed foods are distinct from processed foods. Humans have been processing food for millions of years. We have to process our food. We have to cook it and salt it and grind it and smoke it and ferment it in order to make up traditional diets that are associated with very good health. Ultra-processed food is industrially processed, and its purpose is to make profit, and it's very extractive. It's extractive from low-income communities in the UK and from low-income communities in the global south and in low-income countries.
Government scientists who've looked into this say that there are, in their words, observational studies only to go on, that this could be a question more of, correlation, but not necessarily causation. What's your argument against that?
So I have I'm at University College London, where you went, and I have excellent colleagues at Cambridge, Harvard, Yale, Princeton. These are excellent studies, but more than that, we have very, very good experimental evidence, both about additives that are exclusively used in ultra-processed food and about the food itself, and I'm running a big randomized controlled trial at the moment at UCL. The evidence has far, far passed the threshold for what we call causality. The Government Scientific Advisory Committee on Nutrition, who released that statement, I think you're quoting from them, has 14 members. Around half of them are funded by companies like and including Coca-Cola. So the food industry has a near total grip on the messaging.
On the Health Watch tonight, a new study finds what you eat could impact your ability to fight colon cancer. Dr. Malika is here tonight. And Doctor, our Western diets aren't doing us any good at all here.
They sure aren't. Those Western diets. Colorectal cancer is the second leading cause of cancer deaths in the U.S., likely driven by chronic inflammation, which is largely determined by our dietary choices. Well, funded by the NIH, a team at the University of South Florida may have uncovered a potential link between the Western diet, which of course is rich in ultra-processed foods, added sugars, saturated fats, and inflammatory seed oils, and the inflammation found in colon tumors. Now, the scientists describe cancer as, quote, a wound that won't heal if your body is living off daily ultra-processed foods. But a diet rich in anti-inflammatory omega-3 fatty acids and fish oils could actually be healing and help the body fight not only cancer, but actually other conditions like diabetes, Alzheimer's, and heart disease.
Here are the top 5 things you can do to improve your symptoms of IBD. The connection between diet and IBD cannot be overstated. Many studies show that anti-inflammatory diets, rich in whole foods, fiber, and omega-3 fatty acids, can help manage symptoms. Avoiding ultra-processed foods, refined sugars, and additives is critical. A 2021 meta-analysis in Gut Journal highlighted that diets high in whole foods reduced flare-ups in Crohn's patients by 37%.
The number one food on this list is chia and flax seeds. Chia and flax seeds have been called superfood because they are low in calories, they are very high in protein, and they are high in omega-3 fatty acids, plus they are also high in fiber. They also have very high amount of antioxidant compounds. These antioxidant compounds help your body to get rid of inflammation immediately. The interesting part is that chia and flax seeds have both soluble and insoluble fibers, and these fibers are very important to support your gut health. The next food on this list is mushrooms. Yes, mushrooms are superfood. They do not get the limelight they should be getting. There are different kind of mushrooms in the market, like button mushrooms, like shiitake mushrooms, oyster mushrooms, as well as portobello mushrooms. All of the mushrooms are packed with nutrients. They have several vitamins and minerals which supports your immune system. They are very high in protein content. They are actually very high in fiber also to support your gut health. Mushrooms are the only food which have vitamin D in them. Majority of the vitamin D comes from sun exposure, but mushrooms have the ability to utilize that sun exposure and create vitamin D. So that's the reason, again, vitamin D is very important to boost your immune system. So mushrooms keep your immune system in good shape and thereby reducing inflammation in your body. The next food on this list is going to shock you. Yes, this food is called buckwheat. Buckwheat recently has been called superfood. What exactly is buckwheat? Buckwheat is actually pseudo cereal. What that means is that people eat it like a cereal, but in reality it is not a grain. So buckwheat is a gluten-free grain. The next food on this list is fatty fishes, especially tuna, salmon, sardines are very important to include to get rid of inflammation. These fatty fishes are very high in omega-3 fatty acids, which again help your body to get rid of inflammation immediately. These fatty fishes are also complete source of good quality protein. They have all the amino acids which is needed by your immune system to function properly and also get rid of inflammation. The last food on this list is all the green leafy vegetables, especially spinach, mustard greens, kale, dandelion roots. These greens are power-packed nutrients. They are high in several vitamins like vitamin C, vitamin K. They are high in several polyphenols like quercetin, which is a powerful antioxidant that removes inflammation from your body, as well as they are high in a compound called sulforaphanes. Sulforaphane supports your liver health, and liver is very important in reducing inflammation in your body. So make sure you are including greens almost every day in your diet. Now it is very important to eat these greens in proper fashion. A lot of people are eating raw greens. Instead of raw greens, if you steam your greens, that's the best way to utilize them because they're easily digested, as well as by steaming them actually improves the bioavailability of the vitamins and minerals in those greens. So now you know 5 top foods if you eat on the regular basis that is going to help get rid of inflammation completely from your body.
Hi everyone, my name's Kate and this is my testimonial for SCD. If I just tell you a bit about my story and then you can see how SCD has impacted my life and we'll go from there. Okay, so 20 years ago I had symptoms with a tummy bug and they didn't go away. I didn't think anything of it, and then went back and forth to my GP, and very quickly, over a week or 2 weeks period of time, I developed some IBD symptoms, and which were very acute at the time. So I was very frightened, and we went back and forth to the doctors, and finally, after many weeks, had a colonoscopy, and IBD Crohn's was diagnosed. The specific carbohydrate diet, we found the book Breaking the Vicious Cycle by Lelaine Gottschall, and we started reading, and it gave us some hope. And so I remember my mum was cooking some chicken soup, and we went and bought a yogurt maker, got Lucy's cookbook from the States, and really educated ourselves. And within 10 days, I had far less symptoms. I had far less blood, less urgency. I wasn't going to the toilet 20 times a day. And we had some hope that my symptoms were reducing. this wasn't a quick fix at all, but we stuck with it, and I was eating amazing foods. We did the intro diet for 5-6 days, and we saw amazing results. So for me, that was really life-changing. I stayed on the same medications. I stayed in touch with my gastroenterologist at the time, and the only thing that I changed was what I ate. And I could see amazing results within a 2-week period, which was incredible. So I went back to work, I went back to London, I went back to my life, and I stayed on SCD for many years, and I stayed on the same medication, which was mesalazine mesavant. I wasn't on any biologics, I wasn't on steroids, and I stuck with it. So it was a real really life-changing experience for me, and I got my life back.
Your gut's microbial balance plays a massive role in IBD. Incorporating fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, or kefir, along with a high-quality probiotic, can improve microbial diversity and reduce inflammation. A 2020 study in Nature Communications showed that probiotic use in Crohn's patients reduced inflammation markers.
For understanding that actually the microbiome can influence the gene expression. So, sometimes, some people talk about the microbiome as the end-all be-all, and some people talk about your genes and your DNA as the end-all be-all. But actually, neither one alone is what's important. It's the interaction, the interface between this and your environment that's actually what creates health or disease.
Our gut microbiome is telling our DNA how to express itself, what genes to turn on, what genes to turn off. And so if there are challenges in our gut microbiome, which, it seems this day and age, everybody's got some issues with their gut microbiome, and we'll talk about why that is. But that is having all sorts of impact in things that we never knew were associated. I see on here you've mentioned like aging and heart disease are things that our gut microbiome can impact our genetic expression on.
Yeah, exactly. The human body is so complex in that it's all these elements are interconnected and interwoven and talk to each other in such a complex circuitry, but it's really also quite simple at the same time, because the same things that we need to do to optimize our DNA health, our brain health, and our gut health are work in the same way to kind of help everything kind of come together as one big orchestra. Everything plays in harmony.
Stress isn't just in your head, it's in your gut too. Chronic stress can exacerbate IBD symptoms. Practices like yoga, meditation, and breathing exercises can significantly lower cortisol levels and inflammation. Research from Psychosomatic Medicine, 2019, found that mindfulness meditation reduced flare frequency in Crohn's patients. There are apps available like Headspace that can help you manage stress so you don't internalize it to the point it makes you sick.
Stress. It comes from all around us. Or does it?
It's less about the things that are happening on the outside of us and more about how we process internally.
Nikki Eisenhower, psychologist, life coach, and the host of podcast Emotional Badass, has been helping people battle more than just stress over the years. But even she'll tell you there's no real way to stop stress. But is there a way to manage it? Absolutely. With these 3 apps.
I can shoot a drug into your IV that will, say, have some result. And if the goal is to lower blood pressure, the quickest way to actually lower your blood pressure is to take 10 deep breaths, is it not?
Yeah, exactly. And really, science is catching up with antiquity. What was seen as it's really just us as a culture and the height of hubris that we forgot what humans knew intuitively for thousands of years. Somehow we got divorced, and there's this collective amnesia that we forgot. Humans didn't need randomized controlled trials. They just knew when they went out in nature that there was this meditative sort of connection. And and it felt good. It was good for their health. They lived in nature. But now we live this sort of sterilized life that, again, this evolutionary mismatch, that now there is randomized controlled trials that looks at things like what we call forest bathing, because it comes from the Japanese phrase Shinrin-yoku, which translates to English as forest bathing, but it's using nature as a medicine, using nature as a meditation that our ancestors didn't know the mechanisms. They didn't have a fancy name for it. They just called it life.
Sleep is when your body repairs itself, including your gut lining. Research shows that less than 6 hours of sleep per night can worsen IBD symptoms. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep. A 2018 study in clinical gastroenterology and hepatology linked sleep deprivation to higher flare-up rates in IBD patients.
First of all, they told participants to try and wake up 2 to 3 hours before their typical wake-up time. They were also asked to maximize outdoor light exposure during the morning. Please get as much light exposure from sunlight early in the day as possible, because it sets in motion a huge number of things that are beneficial for your mental health and physical health, including dopamine production, timing melatonin production correctly, reducing cortisol peaks late in the day, et cetera, to try and keep sleep-wake times fixed between their work days and their weekends. So not sleeping in on the weekends. We're not having any sleep-in days. Participants were also asked to try and go to sleep 2 to 3 hours before their habitual bedtime. They were also told, and I love this because it fits with many of the things we've talked about on this podcast before, to try and limit light exposure during the evenings. Dim the lights or limit altogether artificial lights. And they asked participants to keep a regular schedule for their daily meals. Not eating on the hour consistently, at 9 a.m., noon, 3 p.m. exactly, but within, again, about 15 to 30 minutes. They're always eating at the same times.
Functional medicine looks at the root causes of IBD rather than just managing symptoms. This may involve addressing food sensitivities, nutritional deficiencies, and toxins. A 2022 case study in integrative medicine showed significant remission rates in Crohn's patients who adopted functional medicine protocols.
But I do feel like functional medicine gets a lot of blowback from conventional medicine. I talk about it in Gut Feelings, actually, this sort of God complex that I think sometimes happens with the conventional medicine against functional medicine. And the idea that, food is influential to somebody's health, I don't think it's controversial, but I still hear it from time to time, not super common these days. And it's increasing, it's over the past 13 years, it's happening less and less. Is that 13 years ago, it was so radical. I would get phone calls at the clinic saying, how dare you say that you could reverse type 2 diabetes with food? How dare you say that food plays a role in many people's autoimmune conditions? Now, I don't get those phone calls anymore, and we have a bigger platform than ever. So I have a feeling that it's just more normalized now.
IBD may be a tough condition to live with, but knowledge is power. From optimizing your diet to improving sleep, there are actionable steps you can take today to reclaim your health. Remember, the journey to healing is not linear, but it is possible. If you've tried any of these approaches or have others to share, drop them in the comments below. Let's learn and heal together. Until next time, stay well. Thank you.